Hey there, Together Learners. Eric back again. And we've been talking about the mice industry. And in this video, we're going to talk about mice in Kyoto. No, not the rodents or the things that control your computers, right? In this course, we've been talking about tourism and hospitality and how the mice industry has to take all of these stakeholders and have them work together to be able to facilitate larger events and meetings and other kind of conferences that happen in a city or town. And looking at the case study of Kyoto and all the places that people collaborate and how these stakeholders get together is going to be telling for us in what happens in this great city of Kyoto, Japan. Kyoto, Japan is one of the more premium, more sought-after locations to host events. It's the ancient capital of Kyoto. It has a lot of tourist attractions, and we're going to look at in this video how they put together organizations and facilitate the cooperation of all of these stakeholders in different ways in Kyoto. It's part of this course that we got, online event design, and also basics of tourism and hospitality at togetherlearning.com. So all about mice in Kyoto coming up in this video. All right, so if you don't remember what mice is, you can probably go back and try and find that in another video on my channel or in the course that defines what mice is and the things that go into it and all these stakeholders that are around that make the mice industry such a big part of the tourism and hospitality industry as a whole. Right? So in this video, we're going to take a look at Kyoto City and specifically 4 websites, 4 organizations that have websites. We're going to look through them to learn a little bit more about them together in this video. But you can see a smattering, and this is just some of the organizations, associations, and groups of people that have gotten together and tried to facilitate either the joining of new members or other types of stakeholders that are maybe present inside of Kyoto City, so we can together host large amounts of tourism, big events, large meetings, large conferences, hotels, working with restaurants, working with government, working with local communities. That all seems to have to happen for mice industry type of activities to be successful. And it takes organizations like these to help make it successful. So why don't we go through these one by one? We're going to show you the websites and learn a little bit about the specifics of Kyoto and the mice industry to help us understand a little bit better about what happens in the mice industry and how this coordination between the stakeholders is so key to this industry. We're going to look at the Kyoto City Mice Office, which is the government office that's in charge of overseeing and facilitating tourism and hospitality. The Kyoto City Tourism Association, which is something called the DMO. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Kyoto Convention Bureau and Kyoto Visitors Bureau, which are more commercial in scope and need. It's a group of sometimes convention centers or hotels or other types of businesses that decided to get together to promote the overall services or venues that might be available in Kyoto. So we start with government, quasi-government, sort of like a private-public partnership, and then we start to move more towards commercial entities that are there to promote their hotels, convention centers, and services, etc. So as we go through these, we'll kind of move along the spectrum of different types of organizations and associations in the mice industry as well. All right, so why don't we take a look at a website here. And the first one is the least probably impressive website as far as design goes, because this is the Kyoto City office's official government offices to support the mice industry. I've met with several officials from this office. They've come to my office at Kyoto University of Foreign Studies to visit and tell me about some of the things that they are offering, some of the ways that they're trying to support the mice industry in Kyoto. For example, they have a fund that they're able to offer to people that are putting on events, especially international events that are trying to attract visitors from other places and give them services like maybe a maiko dancer or some traditional music, things that put money into the city but also attract tourism from other places around the world. So they're helping to coordinate these things, coordinate information between these things, and putting on programs to support kind of tourism attractions and events that are happening around Kyoto City. But their website is managed by the government, and they have their own ways of managing information. So it's a very vanilla website. The information they put out isn't necessarily distributed in a way that is helpful to the normal person that isn't in the MICE industry and, you know, actively watching the information that comes out of their services. Like, they don't advertise, they don't put things a lot on social media, they're not doing a lot of extra work to do PR. They're just working to put out the correct information, put out kind of support services around the MICE industry. Probably understaffed as far as I'm concerned too. So that's the first one. This is the Kyoto City MICE offices. Next one is a quasi kind of state between some groups here. This is the Kyoto Tourism City Association. Now this is a DMO. This is kind of a term that started coming about and becoming more popular in the early 2000s. Domain Management Organization, Destination Management Organization. So it's supported by the government in a way, but it's basically, you can apply to be in this organization, and they do things like research about what's happening around trends of who's visiting, what they're doing, and kind of the way that money is being spent and distributed. That research is supported by membership and membership fees, and also from other organizations. They have training programs and other things. They put out news about what's happening in Kyoto. And so it's basically a way for people that are in the tourism industry, or even tangentially related, even restaurants or other places, can join this organization and share information, learn from each other, and support each other in discussing what's happening around Kyoto and in the tourism and hospitality industry. Now, they're doing a lot of different things. They have an academy here, which is okay. They have some stuff in here. They have a couple of, like, for example, hospitality English lessons and other things. They do some interesting research where they tell us helpful overview information about tourism and what's happening with the trends and the economies around tourism in Kyoto. What's really telling is that they have a list of all their members. And so you can take a look at this list, which is a Google Sheet, and it says all of the people that have applied and become members of this organization. And there's tons of different things, different groups, different organizations, different NPOs, different businesses, even Kyoto temples and people that manage shrines and temples have also joined this organization. You can see listings on here for like event organizers, cafes and restaurants are a part of this, hotels, shops that rent bicycles. There are probably a good how many we got here? 1,500 or so, 1,400 members that have joined. Most of them are different groups, different companies doing different things around tangentially even around tourism and hospitality. I could even see a couple of services like taxes and things like that. If you're running a business around tourism, you might want to consult a tax expert, especially one that does work with the tourism and hospitality industry. Kyoto Yoga, DMO, tea organizers, tea distributors, experience Japanese culture. Those are just some of the English things that I see on here as well. But you can see a great list of the possible stakeholders, and you can see a variety of the different types of people that get involved in organizations like this to help support what they're doing and each other in the city through MICE tourism. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is the Kyoto Convention Bureau, which is probably the smallest support group as far as what I've seen in and around the ones that we're sharing with today. So the Kyoto Convention Bureau is the oldest, and what I can tell around this is that they have 4 or 5 main benefactors, convention centers and hotels that help put together. And one thing that it's often accused of the MICE industry, especially when trying to have these DMO organizations, is that they tend to prioritize or lean towards certain types of activities or hotels or businesses. And of course, that leaves some people potentially out of the situation. So if the organization is overrun or is has a certain business or a large group of hotels has a bigger voice in that organization, they may collectively push people to follow their policies or policies that relate to their businesses or hotels, or advertise to their businesses or hotels. So we have seen a little bit of trends in people kind of either pulling out of the DMOs or creating their own kind of sub-organization or sub-group of people that prioritize their own needs as far as how they fit into the whole MICE industry in their town or location. The Kyoto Convention Bureau is actually older than the first one that I showed, but they probably want to hold on to the systems and the partnerships that they've made over time, and therefore they might also be members of the Kyoto Tourism organization or association, but they still hold on to their old connections and agreements with the Kyoto Convention Bureau. The last one I'll show here is the Kyoto Visitors Bureau, which they have the best English information. So it doesn't really say exactly who necessarily is supporting them, but I know for a fact one of the biggest benefactors for this organization is the Kyoto International Convention Hall, which is the largest venue for holding international events in Kyoto. And so they, as a big, huge venue, they have the biggest events in Kyoto, and so they need a way to house and kind of facilitate their own big events and connect it to hotels and bring in and kind of appeal to possible big events that are happening all around the world. So they're more focused in on these bigger events, being able to advertise, and they list up all of the possible venues and scenarios and things. So if you are an event person and you're looking to maybe hold your convention or your event in Kyoto, Japan, and you're an English speaker, you're probably going to come to this page as one of the first stops. And it has a list, for example, a list of all the meeting facilities and where they are, and the hotels that are listed there, and how many people can be seated, and what kinds of things are available, and what hotels are close by, and all of the different accommodations and facilities. And this group collectively hires a few people to answer and field questions in English, and then contact the hotels or the convention centers and connect them together for possible meetings and help facilitate the go-between of all of the things that are possible to happen in Kyoto to host or facilitate your event. Right, so what we've done now is we've gone through all of these: Kyoto City MICE Office, the Tourism Association, the DMO, and a couple of other associations, more commercialized, to happen around Kyoto, Japan. But there's more to think about this, especially related to the study of tourism and hospitality. So I'd like to invite you to think about and go explore and do some research about what's happening around the MICE industry in your town or city or location or your state or your country even, right? Do some work, do a little research, and go out and find some organizations like the one I showed you that are around in Kyoto. Who are members of these associations? Who is funding them? What kind of parts and industries are they looking to support? What activities are they doing to help support the MICE industry in your town, state, or country? List them up, find a couple of links, and write a possible essay or report about the MICE industry in your town. And it'll be a great exercise for you to start getting involved and even knowing where to make contacts and dig in further into this industry in your location. And I believe this is a great first step in probably getting to know and furthering your career in the MICE industry, especially where you live. At togetherlearning.com, we're going to be sharing our answers and learning from each other from the specific questions. So if you want to learn more about that, I invite you to come on down and discuss with us what we're doing and learning from the mice industry in various places around the world. All right? That's all talking about the mice industry in Kyoto, Japan, case study. And we hope that you can explore a little bit about the mice industry in your town from this example and help dig in and learn some more. Maybe if you want to, come on down to togetherlearning.com. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.